Yeah, thank you very much for being here again. I was here last year talking a little bit about predictive supply chain risk management. Today we will see maybe the next evolution of that approach, basically how we embedded that into an overall logistics approach and supplier management approach. I'm pretty sure not many of you have heard about AGCO before. I will talk about that in a few seconds. However, I'm glad to be here again and to share a little bit the insight on predictive analytics. I'm not using the football example again because I'm not into football, I'm into soccer, but I'm into hockey as well. And I think the challenge for us as supply chain people, but also as supply chain and manufacturing people really is how can we make our operations more stable, more successful, looking into the future. It's pretty easy. I'm a German citizen, but I'm a US taxpayer, so I can joke about my company, which is an American-based company. We are very good about creating dashboards and KPIs like crazy. But all these KPIs and dashboards are dealing with the current situation. But we do not have any dashboard, any KPI dealing with the future. But if we want to be successful as a supply chain organization, we have to think about the future. The world is changing, the environment is changing, and if we really want to be successful and deliver that competitive advantage to our organization, we need to think a little bit differently. And this is what we did over the last 2-3 years within our company, think how we can influence the future already right now. So AGCO, I will just say a few words to AGCO because what I've learned attending conferences and being a speaker at conferences either in Europe or in North America or South America, not many people know about AGCO. We'll talk about a little bit about the value of supply chain analytics. We talk about the AGCO way, how did we implement it, how did we as an organization link manufacturing and supply chain much better, because we think if we really want to be a successful company, if we want to create that competitive advantage, we need to stop thinking about functional areas, we need to stop thinking about supply chain is just a supplier of manufacturing. That's absolutely nonsense. And we feel that with our approach, we can also enable our manufacturing organization to be more agile, to be much more responsive to market changes. And we see currently a lot of market changes. The agricultural business is going down since 2-3 years now. And every year we expect that this is going to change, but then every year becomes more challenging. So we need to help our manufacturing people to be better and to be more agile. And we will talk a little bit at the end about the competitive advantage. So who's AGCO? AGCO actually is the third largest agricultural equipment manufacturer globally, behind John Deere and Case New Holland, which belongs to the Italian Fiat group. So we own many brands, but our 5 core brands are those ones that you see here, which is Challenger. Challenger is the former Caterpillar brand that we bought in the 2000s. Fendt is our premium tractor brand. This is where all the innovation happens. This is where we make money, and this is where, let's say, the farmer goes if he really wants to have outstanding leading-edge technology. Then we have Massey Ferguson, which is the oldest tractor brand in the world, history of 160 years, founded in England, but production now in France. And finally, Valtra. Valtra is a Scandinavian brand, very strong also in South America, like Massey Ferguson. But there's one difference between our company and the competitors. We have more than just tractors and combines and equipment. We also deliver grain storage and chicken protein feeding system, things like that, chicken housings. So this is where we think the future will also be, that we offer more to the farmer than just tractors or machines. The other area that we are currently working on, and which also it changes our entire business model. We talked a lot about disruption right now. Precision farming, or others call it electronic farming, e-farming, whatever. So basically the entire crop cycle, the entire farming value chain from the producer to the user at the end of the day is undergoing a dramatic change right now. We're talking about drones in agriculture. We are talking about autonomous driving in agriculture. We are talking about connecting suppliers with tractors, tractors with farmers, farmers with end users. So this is a huge transformation that is in the industry currently, and this also has an impact on our supply chain operations. The other impact that we have, we are a global company, pretty young, 26 years old. with a global footprint in manufacturing, factories everywhere, and usually it's like the automotive guys, our factories are dedicated to certain brands. So we are not producing a Massey Ferguson tractor in our Fendt facility in Germany. We are not producing a Valtra tractor in our Massey Ferguson facility in South America. So that makes our life a little bit more complex because we cannot really shift our production. But the point is we still have local supply bases. But we are also getting more global in the supply base area, which means that by the end of the day, we see more and more complexity in our supply chain because we have suppliers shipping around the world. In the last couple of years, we were actually forced to source in China a lot to stay competitive in our South American and our Brazilian market. But then suddenly the regulations in Brazil changed, the currency changed, and we had to resource everything within less than 12 months to stay competitive again. So that means the impact that we see on our supply chain is getting more and more complex, and the hubs that we are using, the ports and whatever, we need to really somewhat monitor these. We need to make sure that with that complex supply chain, we always have full transparency in that entire supply chain. And that was basically the effort we took the last 3 years, not only to understand our suppliers, but also understand where are they shipping from, what ports are we using, what is the shipping time, and that will be basically the basic for my presentation today, and I show you a little bit how we made that happen. So I will cut this due to timing. You all know that we have seen lots of challenges coming up. I think whoever watches TV, whoever sees what's going on around us these days in many countries knows that supply chain operations getting more and more difficult, getting more and more unstable. Actually, we had a fire this morning in one of our suppliers' facilities, which caused some unnecessary work. The good thing is we had alert systems in place. However, more and more impacting the supply chain, globalization, the markets, but also changing products. Even in our industry, the product life cycle is getting shorter and shorter. The farmers are expecting more and more new technology. So product life cycles of 7 or 10 or 15 years in the past now have come down to 6, sometimes 7 years. Regulations with emissions are forcing us to bring out new products every 5 to 6 years. So lots of changes. Then the same situation that is basically coming from our industry and the company. AGCO is a pretty young company, 26 years old. We grew from 0 to 11.5 billion in less than 25 years. Now it's a little bit less, but this has an impact, of course, on our supply chain, operations. The market volatility, this is what we see currently right now with the currencies, but also with those areas, the commodities that are impacting our business. Wheat, corn are in some areas of the world all-time low prices. Farmers are not going to invest. So what that means for us is we had to cut down production, and at the end of the day, we also put some suppliers in danger because of that. So we need to keep that in mind. And finally, we are getting more and more into the automotive industry, standardizing products, platform on module strategies. Great for us in purchasing. We can leverage volumes. We can leverage suppliers. But on the other side, we are also increasing our risk exposure as we are depending on less suppliers than in the past. And these suppliers are shipping to more facilities than in the past. And we need to react on that. We need to redesign our supply chain. We need to redesign the way we manage suppliers. I skipped that slide due to timing. However, we said 2 or 3 years ago, it's almost 4 years ago, we need to be a game changer. We as an organization need to change the game of the company. We as a supply chain organization are not here just to serve. We are here to develop a competitive advantage for the organization. We are here to basically be a game changer. And 2 areas that were very important to us, number 1, end-to-end automation, and we heard that in a former presentation as well, and digitization of the supply chain. This is something where we invested a lot, and you will see that we have done a lot of things in the area of cloud-based solutions, in the area of big data management. And finally, manufacturing agility and flexibility means build to order, design anywhere, build to anywhere approach. If this is the direction of the company, if this is the direction of your manufacturing leaders, of your engineering leaders, you have to react on that. You have to design your supply chain accordingly. So what does it mean for AGCO? Today, I will introduce you to two of the many strategic initiatives. Why two? Number one, 70% of AGCO's products, of the innovation within our tractors, combines, and whatever are coming from the suppliers. So each tractor has 7,000 to 8,000 parts, and 70% of the parts are not coming from our facilities. So we need to have a focus on our supply base. Due to the historic development of AGCO, we have to deal with almost 6,000 suppliers globally, which is way too much for a company our size. But that also means if we want to manage them up to that date when we have maybe reduced the supply base, we need to be very good and very efficient in the way we do it. And that means we need technology helping us. You cannot do that with human resources only. Then you would have to increase the organization by 50, 60%, and in times where markets are going down, this is almost impossible. So we will talk about Aspire, which is our global supplier management approach. I'm not talking about a solution. The solution is just part of it. And secondly, we will talk about AGCO Smart Logistics. Smart Logistics is a concept that we've developed to manage our transportations and to manage our supply chains globally, using also cloud-based technology, using big data technology, so that in the future we are working on a 4PL concept, or not in the future, we already do that, and not going with 3PL providers anymore, so that we have also a neutral instance in our organization helping us to better understand the complexity behind the supply chain. So talking a little bit about Aspire. Aspire is our supplier management approach. It consists of basically 7 single approaches here. We're talking about quality, delivery, sustainability, and things like that, which is not super fancy and much different than what you see in automotive or other industries. But if you as a company did not have that before, if you didn't have a clear direction, a clear strategy how to deal with the suppliers, this is somewhat a game changer for us. And we wanted to make very clear to all our suppliers and partners, hey, we operate a little bit differently than maybe our competitors, and we also operate a little bit more different than maybe your customers in the automotive industry. Less complex, a little bit more on the simple side. We're not going to have huge regulations on quality management. We are not going to have big guidelines on how we want to do business with you. We keep it very simple, straight to the point, and we make it also very clear that if you want to grow with a strong partner, then you need to grow with us, because we want to be your preferred customer. And that's basically our main, one of the key initiatives in our purchasing organization, preferred customer strategy. If you have that in mind, the way you operate as a purchasing or supply chain organization, it's much different than you say, this is a supplier and this is us. So what it means, we're talking about supply chain analytics today and how to turn analytics into a competitive advantage. We spent quite some time to understand, how do we want to measure our suppliers? What are the key areas? What are the key weaknesses we want to identify, so that we exactly know where we have to send and invest our resources to improve the relationship and to improve the performance. And we have decided on 5 core areas: financial stability, operational excellence, and something that was really new to the company and that is still pretty unique, is the area of market risk or risk management. Many companies talking about it. I was in automotive when the automotive crisis happened 7, 8 years ago, and everybody was going to all these companies like Dun & Bradstreet and whatever, asking for financial analysis of their suppliers, but they completely forgot the market around it. They completely forgot the supply chain around it. They were just focusing on, is this supplier going into Chapter 11 tomorrow, yes or no? And that's an approach we have changed. We said, if we really want to do risk management properly, we need to understand the entire picture, starting with geopolitics, going down to the financial strength of the company. Compliance and sustainability, also important to us. We are a stock-traded company. SEC is on our back as well. Conflict minerals, things like that are important to us as well. So this is the way how we manage our suppliers, and this is the way how how we generate our scorecards. And our first approach really was, we are not going to understand 25 KPIs. 10 KPIs is way enough to really understand the performance of a supplier and to make sure that we, together with the supplier, with the partner, improve the performance. So what we have done, we have developed a scorecard and we have developed software. The software is a web-based solution and it's cloud-based. And that's basically number one in our strategy. We are not going within AGCO, in the purchasing supply chain area, we are not going to use large ERP systems for strategic and tactical parts of our business. We are going to use small partners. We are going to use cloud-based technology. We are going to use web interfaces so that our people can have easy access to it wherever they are. If a buyer goes to a supplier for a negotiation, or a supplier quality engineer goes to a supplier to help him improving his quality, he needs to have access to all data via his iPhone, via his iPad, via his computer, and that's basically our first strategy. So what you see here is a dashboard of our supplier management system, which is called Apex, and this is where we do all data tracking, all data storage linked to one supplier. From quality, performance data, to risk data, to master data, and whatever. So as a buyer, if you want to have an insight on your supplier, you just have to have only one login, and you will have everything related to the supplier. So second part is our supply chain risk analytics. This is what I was talking about last year already. And this is the first project we did where we said we need to go into the area of big data technology, into the area of using global databases, risk intelligence through self-learning algorithms. This is a dashboard of a supplier that you would see as a buyer if you would like to understand his risk scores. So we have in that area embedded several solutions, either from Duns & Bradstreet, from a strong partner we have in Europe called Risk Methods, data we are generating through our network, through our different channels. So basically, this is giving every buyer, every logistics person, every material planner the insight on what is the risk status of this supplier. And based on that, we are making sourcing decisions. Based on that, we are making material planning decisions. And based on that, we are also making decisions based on safety stocks and things like that. This is basically how all the screens would look like. And this picture really, I like it a lot because this is where we visualize the material flow from each and every supplier to each and every of our locations. So we know exactly where our axles, if they come from China, if they go from China to Brazil, what is the transportation route, what ports are we using, what freight lines are we using. So whenever there is a disruption in that supply chain, whenever there's a strike in a port, whenever there is a fire, something going on, we get an alert through this kind of technology. And this is why we talk about Geo Targeting and things like that. We know exactly the geo targets of each and every supplier, which helps us a lot. There were a lot of earthquakes last year in Italy. And within less than 20 minutes, we know what suppliers are in those earthquake areas, what are the transportation routes, and it takes, I would say, our local freight forwarder less than 60 minutes to figure out, are we impacted, yes or no? If the supplier is not impacted, is the transportation route impacted, yes or no? So that's something, and I deal with risk management now since 12, 13 years. This is a technology you have not seen on the market 5 or 6 years ago. Here you can see the rapid change going on in terms of technology, big data management, and Janice was referring to it. We are also doing web crawls 24/7 a day, so we are scanning the internet based on terms that we have put into the machine. We are scanning social media all the time with that technology. So whenever there's let's say, an alert in a local newspaper that is somewhat on Google or whatever kind of engine, we usually get these alerts 20 to 40 minutes later. And this helps us a lot with our risk management planning. So next step, before I move into that smart logistics, the next approach we are taking right now is deep dive into our supply chain. So we do not want to understand our tier 1 suppliers only. We also want to understand their sub-suppliers. And this is what makes supply chain management and risk management strong, if you really have an insight on what's happening below the level that is collaborating with your organization. Pretty difficult because, again, we have to talk about transparency, we have to talk about trust. Many suppliers are not maybe willing to open up their supply chain, but on the other side, that's the reason why we have a supplier management program in place. We want to always stress the benefits. Here, we can help you. If you have an issue with your supply chain, we can step in. You benefit from us, we benefit from you. If you want to be successful, then it's through partnership. So that was a little bit the insight of the Aspire program and the risk management we are taking. And this is an essential part of our Purchasing 2020 strategy. However, now we talk a little bit about smart logistics, because these initiatives basically tie into each other. What does AGCO Smart Logistics mean? It was also on the slide, as Janice was saying. This is basically an approach that we have developed by ourselves to change the entire inbound logistics network, and in the future outbound as well. Based on the plant structure, on the supplier structure, we had a lot of chaos within our transportation, a lot of isolated solutions, different from plant to plant. And we said we cannot continue like this. We need to have a global transportation management system, so that all the data we have, all the information we have about suppliers, about shipping routes, transportation routes are in one system, so that at the end of the day we can use that also to optimize our transportation. So we have developed that AGCO Smart Logistics with our suppliers. And what it means basically is it's a 4-step approach. Step 1 is bundling forces. We called it bundling forces. It's a hybrid organizational setup. Hybrid, why? Because the first time in history we are not managing our transportations just by AGCO resources. We have teamed up with a 4PL provider from Europe that is basically managing our transportation now. And this is also one of the other key changes in our organization. In the past, AGCO developed all the IT systems on its own. We never trusted anyone. We never cooperated with people. And now we have said, risk management, we can do that, yes, but we need strong partners. Transportation management, yes, we can do it, but we need strong partners. So the first time that we feel we are to get into all that area of big data, supply chain analytics, we might not be strong enough to do it by ourselves. Let's team up. Second start is transparency. We have a cloud-based solution on that transportation as well. Reduce risk, we talked about that. Risk management and how we embedded the risk management approach in our transportation management and logistics approach. And finally, the area of supplier development. So what are the key messages here, or what are the key differences compared to the past? Number 1, of course, what I just mentioned, a 4PL provider helping us to better understand the market, the transportation market, and getting away from dealing with hundreds of small transportation companies and making local decisions, making regional decisions, more with a global approach now. The second thing is cloud-based and intelligent transportation management system. This is hosted by our external 4PL provider. So he has access to the data, and I will show in a few seconds what that actually means and what information he can get out of it. There are a lot of self-learning algorithms behind it based on all the changes we have within the sites. You need to understand we have more than 300,000 active part numbers that we are buying every year, and we have a couple of million spare part or aftermarket parts that we need to manage. And the impact was pretty cool the first year. If you see the transportation cost, here, within 1 year, almost 30% less, just by using someone who's a little bit on the neutral side, who's not having all these ties to certain local suppliers, someone who's able to, based on big data, on using technology, optimizing transportation roads, milk runs, and things like that. So, using a big supply chain management approach, using an intelligent transportation management system, using KPIs for your suppliers, of course, creates a huge data jungle. And this is a challenge now. The more systems you have, the more integration you do with your suppliers, the more integration you do with your own internal partners, the more data you have available. And now the question is, how do you turn that data into reliable and valuable information? And this is basically, again, why we have said, let's team up with people that are maybe a bit smarter than we are, that have maybe access to technology that we don't even understand, and that can help us because they also bring in experience from other industries, and that's important to me and to us as an organization, learning from other industries. The agricultural industry usually is 5 to 10 years behind the rest of the world, and the automotive industry and some others are usually a little bit ahead. So let's learn from them, and let's create a competitive advantage now using technology that maybe our competitors will only have in 2, 3, or 4 years. And the interesting part of that is our risk management provider, he's using a lot of self-learning algorithm, means every alert we are getting, every message we are getting, we can basically analyze and we can rate. And if we say that is not important to us, the algorithm will change, and the next day we will get different kind of information. And the same here with our transportation and logistics approach. The company that we are hiring helps us a lot with certain algorithms improving our supply chain routes, our transportation routes. I talked about that as well. But also we are using all that information through big data technology to better rate and understand the supplier's performance. Not only based on delivery data, PP or PPM quality and on-time delivery, but now we are also taking risk parts into consideration. We're talking a little bit about predictive analytics here, doing now a project with a company from Europe where we, based on supply chain trends or performance trends, predict future performance. So if a supplier shows a certain pattern, the supplier that maybe did a fantastic job for 2 years, but now in the last 6 months his delivery performance is declining, his quality performance is declining, and maybe social media tells us that he's getting more and more into newspapers because of, I don't know, financial issues or management changes. We put this information together to predict, is there a risk coming in the next 3, 4, 5, 6 months? And the next step is also considering material prices. You know, is the supplier shipping maybe steel products, and if the steel market is going up, is there some kind of a correlation between all these factors so that we say, hey, in 6 months we might end up in an issue, so let's think about a resourcing project right now, or supply chain project right now. So at the end of the day, lots of complexity, and how can we motivate people to use it? How can we make sure that people understand what we're doing? How can we make sure that people are taking this information every day into their decisions? So we said, again, let's go away from, I'm sorry if anybody from SAP or whatever is in the room, let's go away from this difficult ERP technology. Let's go into web interfaces. Let's go to what millennials want. Let's go to what people are used to buying on Amazon and eBay. So all the strategic systems, again, are web-based, and this is how the dashboards look like. If you open this software, you have a status about the supplier. You understand how much did he contribute over the last couple of months in terms of cost savings, cost idea projects. What is his quality or project performance? What is his risk performance? And at the end of the day, and these are the dashboards we're seeing here, what is his performance in terms of quality, logistics, and whatever data. And what we have learned, this really helped a lot also to refocus people, to bring people back to why we have hired them. And it's not only about cost reduction and hammering suppliers, it's about developing suppliers, developing partnerships, and bringing innovation back to our company instead of suppliers going to our competitors, going to us because they understand that there is a value in our relationship. So that's basically a little bit the approach. Sorry, I had to be a little bit more quicker. Final slide. I personally believe, even after 20 years now in purchasing and seeing a lot of changes, there is still a lot of room for improvement for every supply chain or purchasing organization. I think most of the organizations still do not deliver the performance they could deliver, or they don't deliver the value they could deliver. And we at AGCO have a very clear strategy on how do we want to deliver value to the organization. And this is what we see here. It's more than just cost savings. It's also about improving lead times, driving innovation, making our manufacturing organization more flexible and agile. And we have a lot of levers we can pull, even without big data technology and whatever analytics. But we also see, and that's my personal observation doing this kind of business now for many years, the last 5 years have dramatically changed the environment we are in. The new technologies we have that I have not seen in the years 2009 and 10 will help us to do our job much better, and also to deliver hidden savings that we were not able to get because we were not able to turn data into information. And this is why I think if we want to be successful as a supply chain organization, now it's a time to team up more and more with providers from the outside, get away from that I can do everything on my own thinking, into that let's create partnerships. You know, there are lots of startup companies out there. Whatever we have done here are small companies. One is a small company from Poland, 15 people. The other one is a small company from Munich with 50 people. And the other one is a small company from Berlin, Germany, which has 300 people. So there is a lot of innovation out there. We just need to get it embedded into our operations. So lessons learned, finally, and then I'm done. Framework. You need to create the framework. You need to have to make sure that the mindset of the people is changing, that people go back to the point that they understand data is important. I think with all the conferences happening, yes, most of the people understand it, but I've seen lots of buyers in my organization that are buyers for 20 years, and they basically say, go away with all this damn data. I make my decision based on my gut feeling, on my relationship based with the suppliers. That's great. That also helps. Purchasing still is people business, but at the end of the day, you need to now merge people and technology, and then you will be pretty successful with your operations. So that was a quick tour. Thank you very much for your attention.